Nigeria's bid to host the 2030 Commonwealth Games has now been rejected. Are you aware of that? Villarreal versus Barcelona was going to be the first Laliga game to be played outside of Spain in Miami in December, but that game has now been called off. In other news, CONMEBOL, the football governing body in South America, has proposed a 64-team World Cup tournament to FIFA. Crazy, right? This and more I'll be discussing in today's video. So guys, welcome to another video. In today's video, I'll be discussing a couple of topics that have come to my attention from the world of sports in the past few weeks and months. Some of these are developing stories, while some of these are pretty much wrapped up and there's no new development about them anymore. So let's quickly get into it. The first on this prompt is the fact that, for those of you who don't know, Nigeria in the past few months submitted a bid to host the 2030 Commonwealth Games, which is going to be the centenary edition of the Games. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Commonwealth Games is like a low-budget Olympic Games, but for Commonwealth countries, that's basically former British colonies outside of the USA. And it's just basically like a sporting events, low-budget Olympics, so you know what goes on in the Olympics. Exactly, like the Commonwealth Games, but fewer sports, fewer countries. And of course, Nigeria, through the Nigerian Olympic Committee and the Nigerian Sports Commission, came together to submit a bid to the Commonwealth, the body in charge of the Commonwealth Games. Can't remember the name right now. And they made their bid, and their major competitor was India, by the way. And over the past few months, the bid was being reviewed, but recently, it has not been announced officially, but recently it's basically been decided that India is going to host the 2030 edition. So Nigeria has missed out on the Commonwealth Games. And if I'm going to dive into this proper, I first of all thought this was a joke when I heard it, because Nigeria hosting the Commonwealth Games. Come on, guys. Come on. What are we doing? First of all, Nigeria does not have the capacity to host any major sporting tournament as it is right now, even football. How many pitches do we have? Like, we need to ask ourselves honest questions. How many good enough pitches do we have before we talk of track and field facilities, before we talk of logistical infra? It's just a lot of things that we do not have, right? And Nigeria hosted a competition that is the African Junior Athletics Championships a couple of months ago in Abeokuta, Ogun State, right? And that competition was, in terms of logistics and infrastructure, it was easy to host because it just only happened. It's a track and field, so it just only happened in one venue, right? In a stadium in Abeokuta, which, you know, happened in a new stadium that's been built very recently, maybe just a couple of years ago. The stadium also hosted the National Sports Festival, by the way, so it's still, by Nigerian standards, it's still quite decent, because that stadium, let me not just say anything else. It's not even about what happened on the stadium I want to talk about. There was an incident that happened with Tunisian athletes at the Junior Athletics African Championships in Abeokuta, where they had an accident somewhere and they had to be transferred all the way to Lagos, because in the whole of Abeokuta, Ogun State, Nigeria, there was no hospital good enough to treat them properly. This could have easily led to a casualty, like a serious problem. Nigeria could have easily entered serious hot water with this issue, because they could not provide enough medical facilities in the place where they were hosting that competition. Now, this is a very small and a very niche sports competition. It is a junior competition and it is just athletics alone. Now, if we have this kind of issue in Abeokuta, which, by the way, for those of you who don't know, in case you are not a Nigerian or you're not really familiar with Nigeria that well, Abeokuta is supposed to be the best place or one of the best places in Ogun State, Nigeria, in the southwest. And that place does not have a facility good enough to treat accident victims. Right? They have to be transferred all the way to Lekki in Lagos. Now, that's just one of the issues with a small tournament like that. That tournament was just for like 4 days or 5 days, by the way. So how do you bid to host a whole Commonwealth Games where you're going to bring so many countries, are going to be hosting even bigger, you're going to need more venues, you're going to need more facilities, you're going to need more infrastructure? It just boggles me. And honestly, when I saw the bid, I was like, okay, maybe if it's 2 countries, maybe we have a chance. But then again, I looked at it and was like, India might not have the best sporting facilities on the planet, but there's no way, and I'm saying this not because even I know the situation, there's no way even as a neutral, I would sit on that Commonwealth Sports Committee or whatever it's called and award hosting rights to Nigeria. It's never happening, at least not in the next 5 years. Nigeria is not anywhere near hosting a Commonwealth Games. Let's be serious, guys. Like, this thing is not, like, we don't have to sugarcoat things. This thing is, it just came as a surprise to me, because I feel like sometimes Nigeria likes to paint a picture, and maybe with sport, I don't know if it's just sport or with other things, just like to paint a picture, and then it's just when you remove that picture or you remove that facade or mirage, just basically something covering the actual situation, right? Because you don't even have to do a lot of research to know that Nigeria does not have any, like, they don't have number of facilities they have, or is not anywhere close to what is required to host a competition like the Commonwealth Games. And I heard that their bid was strong on culture and whatever. Like, they were trying to, it felt like they were trying to like sidestep the important things and use culture and all of that. And I'm like, bro, that's not going to work, because at the end of the day, yes, it is you can say it's a festival and a celebration of the Commonwealth countries and all of that beyond the sport. But at the end of the day, you still have to provide this infrastructure. If not, the games cannot take place anyway. So it has not been officially announced, but it's going to be officially announced in November that India has won the hosting right for the 2030 Commonwealth Games, as they should, because at the end of the day, it was just India and Nigeria. And like I said, India does not have the best sporting facilities on earth, but they definitely have way more and better ones than Nigeria. So this bid was, like I said, was a result of the coalition of the Nigerian Olympic Committee and the Nigeria Sports Commission, and even the president also sort of put his weight behind the bid. But at the end of the day, the bid was thrown out. As simple as that. So no Commonwealth Games for Nigeria, and I honestly don't think any sporting major tournaments will happen in this country anytime soon. That's just the truth. So let's go to the next prompt. Villarreal versus Barcelona, a La Liga game that was supposed to happen in December in Miami. You may ask why. Well, basically this has been a plan that has been in the works for so long with La Liga and maybe I think Syria. They have been planning to host games outside of, maybe just one game outside of to test the waters outside of Spain. Majorly the plan was to be in the US, outside of Spain. And for a couple of years, even when I first came across this idea, I thought it was bogus. I have never been behind this idea, and I found it weird. However, that game has now been called off because the promoter or the organizers or whoever in the US said there was not enough time from when they got the go-ahead from UEFA and the Spanish FA for the game to go ahead. There's not enough time between now and December to prepare it, which I'm very happy about. Just by the way, I want to be clear. I do not want to see La Liga games outside of Spain or any European football games for that matter. Now, let me dive into this properly. This issue for me I'm going to be very plain. I feel the way I see this is like La Liga and the leadership of La Liga, Javier Tebas, taking a shortcut to make money, right? And as a Barca fan myself, I was disappointed in the leadership of Barcelona, Joan Laporta, also being behind this whole plan, because I'm being in support, by the way, because ultimately it took pressure from the players, which was one of the reasons I believe why this was called off. La Liga, the captains of all the La Liga teams sort of came together and decided to stage a mini protest, since this was announced in the recent weekend games, and then they just sort of put pressure on the leadership of the league. And I think that, to talk about this proper, La Liga has failed to market the product itself. La Liga has failed to capitalize on the years when they had Messi, Ronaldo, and they had these so many stars. And La Liga just says, okay, we have the two best players in the world at that time, and are just going to leave. La Liga's obviously La Liga cannot compete with the Premier League, but La Liga can make so much more, can do so much more with marketing. La Liga has a huge fan base. Not all the teams, obviously, yes, but La Liga still has a huge fan base in Africa and in South America as well. They can market properly to those leagues, to those regions, but La Liga has not done enough. La Liga has not done enough at all. Even recently, I heard that La Liga took off their broadcast, La Liga TV, off of our local broadcast in Nigeria here, the major one that everybody knows, right? La Liga took off La Liga TV, which is just basically the platform that does the pre-game, post-match, and everything. And so when you're watching La Liga in Nigeria now on the major broadcast, you're just watching the game. So that does not help the league in any way. So La Liga has failed to do a lot of things. The leadership of La Liga has failed to do a lot of things. And this to me was just a shot. Like, they can tell you every reason why they wanted it to go, wanted to play this game in Miami, to spread it to new fans and all of that. But I do not buy it at all. It is purely money. This thing is just, like, to me, the whole reason, one of the reasons behind the Super League as well. It is just money. And as much as I am not happy that the Barca president was not against it, because I wouldn't say he was overly in support, but he was definitely in support. I also understand that, to be fair, I mean, Barca needs money, so yeah, it is what it is. But I also want to talk about, like, the argument people make from the point of, like, American sport hosting, like, for example, NFL games have been hosted in Europe, in London, in some countries in Europe. And I need people to understand that the way American sports work, if you want to really make an argument for this using American sports, you need to understand the foundation of American sports and European sports and the way they work. The foundation of American sport is largely influenced by money. The foundation of European sport is largely influenced by working class people, ordinary people, people who basically, like, it's more of a community. It's more of a, like, football is more close knit, or maybe European sport, like, not, that's not to say there's not a community in those regions in America and all of that, but football, for in particular, is more traditional. It's more close to the people, especially with smaller clubs like Villarreal, who have less foreign supporters, right? Who have more of, like, community supporters from the town, from the local towns and all of that. So to take that game away from those people and say you want to expand the reach of La Liga, and also, by the way, it's not just La Liga, because this was simultaneously approved by UEFA. A Serie game between Como and I think AC Milan, I'm not sure, was to be played in Australia, also far away from Italy. So whatever arguments you want to make about spreading the reach of La Liga and all of that, I don't buy it. Let me just be clear, I don't buy it. And I think that this has not been handled properly. I think UEFA should have been stricter on this. I think, if possible, FIFA should have also stepped in at some point in whatever capacity that they can. And yeah, I'm just happy that this is not going to go ahead, honestly, because as for the Syria game, I think that one is still scheduled to go ahead. I feel like it will also be cancelled eventually, but ultimately, I'm happy that this is not going to happen. There is no La Liga game that will be played out of Spain, and I hope this never happens. And even still, Javier Tebas, the president of La Liga, still came out after this decision was made and said, oh, he was disappointed and all of that, and that the people talking about tradition and keeping the game in Spain, blah, blah, blah. He was just saying a lot of things I considered nonsense, But at the end of the day, this game is going to be taking place in Villarreal as was planned. So I'm very happy. And also, something I forgot. How does it help with the case of fixture congestion? If you have to go all the way I know that it is supposed to be the last La Liga game of the year for both teams, right? For the year 2025. But how does it help with fixture congestion? If a game is supposed to play in Villarreal in Spain, you go all the way to the US to go play that game. Now that means you have to acclimatize to a new time zone and a new environment in a couple of days to play a game where you're supposed to entertain the fans. Not just entertain. It is not a friendly game, by the way. You need to also still get 3 points. The whole argument of spreading La Liga and European football, European sport to a new audience, I don't buy it. Like I said again, I don't buy it because you have preseason friendlies for that. You have preseason tournaments for that. There's the Champions Cup they play in the US, or what's it called? There's different preseason games. That's why preseasons happen. Teams play preseason in Australia, in Asia, in regions where, because of the time zones, they can't exactly watch European games in like daytime or favorable nighttime, and so they get to see their teams once a year, which is very, very good. Anything beyond that, I just think you are trying to be a sellout and you're trying to take the shortcut. You're not trying to do the hard work to make your league marketable. You're trying to take the shortcut to make money, and I am 100% against that. So the next prompt here is something I find really crazy, because CONMEBOL, the football confederation in South America, basically the football governing body of South America, in the past few weeks, and I think maybe months, or early this year, sometime this year, proposed a 64-team World Cup to FIFA. Now, this is something that does not make any sense to me, because we have not even had a 48-team World Cup yet. The first one is supposed to be this summer, and you're already proposing a 64-team World Cup. We don't even know how the 48-team World Cup will go, whether it will be really good or majority will say it will be really bad. We've not experienced the 48-team World Cup yet, and you want to play a 64-team World Cup. Part of the reason why the World Cup is held in 3 countries is because it's a 48-team World Cup, and sometimes you just need it to be in different places, right? But as much as it sounds funny, it made the news. I don't know what's going on in CONMEBOL, but obviously this is not going to happen, because a 48-team World Cup gives, for example, continents like UEFA already have so many slots. Some of them I think are not justifiable. But if you do a 64-team World Cup, how easy would the qualifiers be in okay, maybe it would benefit regions like Africa. We probably get maybe 15 slots, right? At least, I assume, if a 64-team World Cup was to happen, right? What happens in South America, where maybe there's 10 countries that take part in qualifiers, and right now with the 48-team World Cup, like 7 already qualify. So how do you organize? Do you now say South America, North America will play as one region? Because it will just create a problem that should not even exist. So this thing is just going to make things worse. From the part of smaller regions, or regions that have not made it too far in the World Cup, or that have not gotten enough slots in the World Cup historically, they will say yes. But looking at it logically, it will create a problem where the bigger teams will basically just stroll into the tournament. And I've always been a preacher of earning it in football. So European teams are not going to have to earn it again. Right now for the 48-team World Cup, most of the groups in the UEFA qualifying are just 4 teams. So if they do a 64-team World Cup, how is UEFA going to organize their qualifiers? So this does not make any sense to me, and it's never going to happen anyway. UEFA is not going to approve it, so dead on arrival. Now, last prompt here is an issue that has dominated the football world and the sports world, and really the whole world in the past couple of months, years, but in football specifically, months and since maybe early this year. So before I go into that, I'll take a water break. Now, there is pressure mounting on UEFA and FIFA to ban Israel from international football. And here is why. Because of the situation in Gaza, a lot of people have called out FIFA and UEFA on their double standards as to why Israel has not been banned from international football yet. And of course, they cite the case of Russia being banned in 2022 from international football. And that sort of happened quite quickly after the invasion of Ukraine, right? And this is a topic that I think needs to be approached very carefully because it's very easy to ignore certain contexts and to miss out on certain things, right? But I'll try to stick to the football side of things as much as possible and the sports side of things. When Russia was banned in 2022, this is what happened, right? There was, as at the time when Russia was almost going to be banned, there was the playoff qualifiers for the World Cup. This was around March 2022, just like a month after the Russian invasion of Ukraine started. And then Poland was supposed to play Russia, I think, in the playoffs. And then I think Poland said they were not going to play the game. And then a couple of other European countries got behind Poland and said that if they had to play Russia, they were not going to play the game. Now, usually what happens in a situation where a country cannot play a game or say they are not going to play a game against another country in international football or generally just football, the case is usually that the country that refuses to play that game will forfeit the game by 3 points and 3 goals, right? But the situation that was created by other European countries refusing to play Russia if they had to play Russia at some point, the situation that was created by that was that UEFA was now going to have to make every other country forfeit those points and goals and was just going to continue. So basically every other European country got behind Poland, right? And then UEFA said we would rather ban Russia than having to have this problem every time a team is going to play Russia. That's how I understand the situation. I might be wrong. Please correct me if I am. Now, UEFA got in on it. And we all know in football, if UEFA gets in on something, FIFA is likely to get in on that same thing. So UEFA and FIFA ban Russia simultaneously, right? And that was pretty quick from the time the invasion started. Now, for the situation with Israel, the couple of things that people have brought to the front burner is the fact that apart from the civilian casualty in Gaza, there have also been casualty in the area of sport. A lot of casualties. Footballers have been killed. Sports people have been killed. Sports facilities have been destroyed. And in particular, there is a FIFA statute that Israel is said to have violated, which is that Israel, so there's an area called the West Bank, right? For people who are familiar with Israel and Palestine and the whole geographical location, there's an area called the West Bank that has been disputed since time immemorial to today, right? Israel lays claim to it, Palestine lays claim to it. So it is, I don't think it is universally considered to be owned by either side, right? So to say. But there's a FIFA statute that says that all member associations can only stage their games, except decided otherwise by FIFA, can only stage their games, national teams or club team games on home ground. And there has been reports that the Israeli that football clubs in Israel have sort of staged games in the West Bank. So that's sort of violated. So that's case number two. Case number one is the casualty of not just the casualty of football and the destruction of sports facilities in Palestine. The casualty of footballers, the destruction of sports facilities in Palestine. One very standout situation was, I think, the fact that they said the conflict was what led to the death of a footballer in Palestine that they call, I think, the Palestinian Ronaldo or so, which was something that really came to attention. And I think even the UEFA official handle posted about it. And then Mo Salah, the Liverpool superstar, quoted the tweet asking UEFA, please tell us how he died, what led to his, basically just saying you guys should like talk about this, not just report the death, like be very specific, and that's one, the issue of the casualty of footballers and sports people, the destruction of sports facilities, and then the staging of games by Israeli teams in the West Bank. So I'm getting deeper into political issues now, but it's very necessary because you can't really talk about this without going a bit political. And now people have said, well, Israel has done too much as regards this issue. So Israel should be banned. And why is it taking so long? And the people who make who are sort of against Israel being banned, like just the regular people, because there's different levels of people. I'll still get to the higher up, the powers that be. The people who are against Israel being banned are basically saying that Russia was banned. What I said earlier, Russia was banned. Russia's case was different. Russia was the aggressor from the start. And Russia was not exactly banned because UEFA and FIFA wanted to. Russia was banned because different countries really refused to play against Russia. But Israel, to be fair, I do not know any countries that have refused to play Israel yet. And it's even interesting because Israel has played in Europe under UEFA. Israel has played under UEFA, tried to play qualifiers for Euros and qualifiers for Israeli clubs have played in Champions League for so many years, because for a long time Israel has AFC has basically just, for political reasons and for security reasons, Israel has not been able to play in Asia for a long time. And so that's why UEFA is here, because even geographically Israel is not in Europe. But yeah, it is a very interesting. So what I was saying earlier was that the people who are against Israel being banned from UEFA are basically saying that the Russia situation is not the same. Russia was the aggressor, Russia was the invader, and countries refused to play Russia. In this case, Israel had a cause to defend themselves and all of that, And now it is like so in the past month, I think UEFA was actually, this issue became really, really serious, and UEFA actually sat on this topic to discuss it. But apparently that meeting they had was inconclusive. And then we heard from nowhere that the president of the United States, Donald Trump, was putting pressure on FIFA to not ban Israel from the World Cup or from qualifying. Like, if Israel qualifies, which is unlikely, I don't even think they will qualify, but that if Israel qualifies, that FIFA cannot ban Israel from the World Cup. Now, if I was going to go deeper into that, it was going to be very much political, right? But then you wonder, why is Donald Trump saying FIFA should not take action against Israel? What's in it for him? Especially because the World Cup is going to be staged in the USA as well. So there's a lot of things that have been said, and they're still going to be said. I just find it sus that UEFA actually sat on this issue and did not come to a conclusion. did not give any, they did not even come out with a statement and say, oh, this is why we have not banned Israel yet. It just seems funny to me. I personally, if you ask me, I think that there is a strong case for Israel to be banned. There is a really, really strong case. And especially because it's this is not even the part I probably should focus on the most, but it's interesting that Israel actually even plays under UEFA, right? So if Israel is going to be banned, it means that they're not going to be able to play because the AFC as well is not going to accept them. So UEFA has kind of been like a safe net for Israel for a while. They've never actually qualified for any UEFA Euro or World Cup since they've been playing under UEFA, I think. So it's a developing story. I don't know what's going to happen. I do believe that if this pressure continues, I think that it will get to a point where countries are going to refuse to play Israel. And I think that it's only when it gets to that point that UEFA would feel the need to take action, because it will now be similar to the case with Russia. Honestly, I don't know what's going to happen, but I think that when it gets to that point is when we are most likely to see Israel being banned. And yeah, if Israel is banned from UEFA, I don't know what's going to happen with FIFA, because Infantino and Donald Trump, they seem to be best of friends now, and Trump has a lot of influence on whatever decision FIFA makes, I guess. But with UEFA, it means Israel will not be able to play qualifiers for Euros, and their clubs will not be able to participate in the Champions League or the qualifiers and all of that. So it will be a ripple effect. I honestly don't know if I've touched on everything I need to touch on concerning this particular topic. I left it for the last because I knew there will be a lot to talk about, but it's not left to me to decide at the end of the day. It's not left to me to decide. And in life, there's some things greater than football and sports. And when we close our eyes to certain things and we make it seem just about like, we just leave it at conversational levels and we don't consider lives being lost. Even on both sides, it's a disaster. Like we have allowed our world to just be, we've closed our eyes to certain things, and even when there's some things that might not even involve bans, but like even just making strong statements go a long way, and nothing like that has been done. And especially when you, like UEFA for example, when you give a statement on the death of a Palestinian footballer and you are just sort of walking around the sport and not actually hitting the sport as regards how the person died, that's some things that are questionable. So I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know everything. But yeah, I hope I have at least addressed the issue to the satisfaction of my viewers to some extent. And yeah, I'm not as I'm not as knowledgeable on everything. So yeah, I think this is where I'll bring today's video to a close. Yeah, because the mood is a bit down right now. So yeah, these are the topics that have been at the front burner in football and sports a couple of weeks. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have anything to say about all the things I've talked about, please do that in the comments. I'd like to hear what you have to say about everything I've talked about. If you really need to fact check me, I appreciate that as well. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, to all my subscribers, and thank you. If you enjoyed this video, please share to all sports fans and all the lovers of the beautiful game. And until I record my next video, it's bye for now, guys. Ciao.